Again for our second session, Designing an Effective Business Model, presented by Martin Luxenburg and Yefim Kalotkin. For those who did not join the first session, my name is Jerke Verschoor and I'm the Director of the Netherlands Education Support Office. Please let us know in the chat if you can hear and see me, and let us know if you joined the first session. Also, as you know, you can type your questions as the presentations go on, and in the end, we will have today's presenters answer them. This session will be recorded as well, and after the webinar, you will receive an email with a link plus an invitation to the third session next Tuesday, same time, 4 o'clock Moscow time. Now, without much further ado, I would like to introduce Martin Luxenburg, Director of the Erasmus Center for Entrepreneurship, one of the leading centers in this field in Europe. Martin, please, welcome to join. Yes, hi, I can hear and see you. I will turn myself off and you will be sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. As Jerke mentioned before, I'm Martin. I'm the director of the Erasmus Center for Entrepreneurship. So yesterday, Aart Groen was there. He is the director of the Groningen University Center for Entrepreneurship. Maybe that seems quite the same, the two centers, but in Rotterdam, we really focus on business and really the business models, how companies grow, and also our research is focused on that. So today I will be really focusing on how can we, what we've learned from the research, but also give you a lot of practical tips on designing an effective business model. So before that, I will do a quick introduction, and I really want you to, during the presentation, ask questions. We will answer them at the end, but make it practical, because based on examples, we can dive into a particular topic. So I will quickly start sharing my screen. So let's wait for a bit for everyone to see it. So first of all, about me. As I said before, I'm the director, but I'm also an entrepreneur. And that is also the reason why Erasmus University asked me and my company, which now has around 50 people, and we're active in over 100 countries with events and on entrepreneurship innovation startups. But from that part, we also said if we want to set up a center for entrepreneurship in Rotterdam, we really want to do that also in an entrepreneurial way. And that is also the reason why our university asked us as a company or as an entrepreneur to do that. So yeah, we built that up. And for the people who don't know really Erasmus University, yeah, we're a business university. So it's easy. We don't do tech. We don't do other health. We are focused on business and business administration. So I think that we're also really good on that topic. And we started actually 100 years ago. And this university was also founded by these three gentlemen, which are entrepreneurs. So in the DNA of our university, entrepreneurship is really there. So moving forward, we created an incubator, an accelerator, which now houses over 10,000 square meters, over 100 companies. We run entrepreneurship programs. We develop entrepreneurship courses. And what I said before, we do a lot of research in why companies grow and why companies scale. And also that part I really want to share with you today. So moving forward, we had over 500 alumni in our startup programs. Well, some of them failed, but a lot of them also became great companies. But in the end, again, it's not only about the success at the end. It's also about teaching people how they set up a business, because that is a skill that you can always that you will always need if you do it for yourself or if you work at a company. So I also want to emphasize that in this presentation. So that is a little bit of background, because I also, in terms of the time, I want to keep it short on the introduction side and really dive into the topic. So moving forward, I will share another presentation. So I will stop this one and then open another one. I see also one of the questions says, do we have an opportunity to download your presentation? Yes, I will make it downloadable, because I really think that we should share this knowledge and you can help it. And there are some practical things in it. So I will now move to the more in-depth presentation. That is this one. Okay, so we're talking about business models. And one of the first things I wanted to say about it is that a business model is not only how you make money. A business model and that states also here in the two definitions, is that it's a way that describes how an organization, and now comes the important thing, creates value, delivers it, and captures it. And capturing value is what you can say how you have a pricing model, etc. There's more on the financial side. But it's really important to also understand that if we talk about the business model, it's also how you create and deliver that value, because those are two things that you are able to distinguish yourself from possible competition. So if you are designing your own business model, think about that it's not only in the end the how you make money, but also how you create and deliver it. And so that's lesson number one. And then I really want you to understand this model, and maybe also write it down for yourself if you thinking about starting a business, already have one and want to grow it, is that if we look at your business model, and if we look at the proposition that you want to provide to your customers, is that there are three things. And that is that the thing that you offer first needs to be desirable. So that means that a customer wants to have the thing that you are offering. So that's one. If you tick that box, that's the first step, because then you know, if I go back to the other point over here, then you know that you are able to deliver that value, right? So you know, okay, that is what a customer wants. Now I only need to make sure that I can myself deliver it, and then we come to the second part, and that if it's feasible, and that means that are you as a company with the skills that you have, the resources that you have, are you able to deliver that to the customer? I think that's the second thing, because if we would set up a similar type of product or business, right? We have the same customer group, etc. If I would do it with my resources on my network and someone else would do it, in the end, it will be a different business, because it's not that everybody starts with the same idea. You come up with all the same companies, and that's also why competition is a lot of times not bad, because you are still able to diversify yourself, because you do it from a different perspective. So the second thing is that you will want to look at, are you able as a company to deliver it? Do you have the resources to make it happen? And the third one is, and I will later on put this also into the business model canvas to make it a little bit more clear. The third one is it viable? And that is more on the side of, are you able to make money with it? Does it cover your cost? Are you able to make a profit margin? Are you able to pay the cash flow part of it? So that means, is it viable? Because on the one hand, you can have a product that someone wants to buy. You're able to deliver that product and make it. But yeah, if you can do that only with making a loss, then it's not a viable business. So that's the third one that you should look at. So every great business model has all these three elements, ticking the boxes and making sure that this is this is covered. So that's, let's say, part number two that I really want you to take into account when looking at your own business model. All right. So the business model canvas. Maybe what I want to ask, maybe some people in the chat. Are you do you know the business model canvas? I heard that Aart Groen yesterday also talked about it. Right? Yeah, I see some already yeses coming up. So I think that is a good thing. So I assume that everybody understands the business model. So I will go a little bit into depth, so not going through the entire business model canvas. One of the questions I see here before is that what is the difference, or what becomes the difference between viable and desirable? And I think what I said is that the desirability means that does a customer want to have the thing that you have to offer? For example, somebody wants to have whatever sunglasses, because I see it here next to me on the table. The customer wants it, but if you look at and you are selling it for €1, then the customer say, "Oh, that's great, €1." But if you are not are able to make a business out of it because your cost price is maybe too high, then it's not a viable business, because you can never sell more sunglasses because you're always making a loss on that. So that is the difference. But all those three needs to be there, but you need to split it up, because you need to first have the desirability ready. So first you need to understand, is the customer wanting it? And then later, at last, you need to make sure if you can create the viability in that. All right, so I go back. Also have a question, is the lean startup canvas? It's a little bit the same. So this is the same, it's the business model canvas by Alex Osterwalder. So I think that is something that it's all those models are more, and that's maybe also I wanted to share with you. All these models are tools. So it's not that if you fill this in the right way that you will have a perfect business. No, it's about, it helps you to figure out how you make a good business model, which delivers, right, on the right-hand side, the value to your customers. On the left-hand side, and that's again, because I will show a little bit here, the part there. So the customer side is, okay, who are the customers? How are you delivering it? On the other hand, is the value proposition. I will go through this because a lot of people already know the model, because I will dive into the other part. Fill this in, and later I will just skip it, because then we will come at this part, because this is more interesting, I would say. So I want to talk about this. So we have on the right-hand side again, does your value proposition is able to deliver that value and what a customer wants? So a customer desires it, right? So desirability is there. You need to get that in place. On the other side, right, we have on the key activities and the key partnerships, the key resources is, are you able as a company to deliver that? That's the feasibility. And again, what I said before, the viability comes back into the part where you have costs to make and you have revenue streams, and that needs to be in line, because otherwise, you are not able to grow that company. So for me, this really adds to the business model canvas if you are filling this in. Okay. So that's an important part of this model. So going back, what we did also based on the research is that what we saw is that if we take a business model of a specific company, and a company says, for example, yes, but I really want to get my revenue streams up, or I want to get my margins up by 10% or whatever. If you want to do that, you need to understand that it creates a difference in your business model. That means that your entire business model, so from your key resource, your channels, everything needs to be changed. And that is what we call, and that's what we added to the business model canvas, is that what we call the business model canvas. That's the business model delta. And I will go into that. So I will switch again to another presentation, but to add to that is that it's for me, this is really interesting, because if we talk with companies and they are having growth problems, a lot of times is that because one of the boxes that they need to tick are they didn't have that really clear. And I hope that with this tool you will get some better insights in that. Right, so go back one more time. Okay. All right. So this is what the model should do. It helps you to identify the most critical assumptions of your underlying idea. It helps you also to be very precise about those, and it helps you really to also to pivot on your business model. So moving forward again, this is the business model canvas. We already talked about it. And as you can see coming on the screen, there is a delta. And we're going to fill this in with an example. So for example, a company says, okay, I want to have a profit of 100,000 euros in this case, and I want to have a margin, and that is a margin of 10%. So that means that if you have 10% margin, that means that your required revenues needs to be 1 million, right? So 10%, 100,000, 100 million in your revenues. That means that if you want to have a 100,000 revenues, and for example, your price, what you're selling it is 25 euros, that means that in the end you need to sell 40,000 of those products. And that means 4,000 customers. That means that because in this case, in this example, customers have some customers buy one, others buy 1,000 of these products. That is in this example. So now you know that if you want that, right? You have the revenues. You know what the price is. You also understand that if I want 4,000 customers or 40,000 to be sold, that you need to have a specific conversion rate. So that means that if you want to have 4,000 customers and your conversion rate is 10%, right? You need to go to 40,000 customers to be able to, right, sell those to 4,000, and in the end to have that revenue in there. Maybe the example is simple, but that makes but it is pretty complex, because in the end this is a simple business model. What I'm saying it here, but it's really helpful to understand what you need to do and change in your own business model of your company to be able to take that growth step. So again, we go back here. This is about the viability, right? Are you able to do this? 1 million revenues, 10% margin. On that side, again, the desirability means here that, okay, if you're testing for 25 euros, maybe a customer says, no, I only want to pay 10 euros for it, or 50 euros. That means that your entire business model is changing, because then you need to sell to more customers, or your conversion rate needs to go up. And maybe if we go to the left side, you with your resources are not able to be able to deliver those things, because maybe you don't have a production facility that is able to produce it with these with for example these lower rates that you are asking your customers. So if you look at, right, we go to the left side, 100 million revenue, profit. That means that you're only able to have 900,000 of costs. Seems really simple, but if you put it here, you are able to calculate back towards the activities that and the resources that are you able to only make it up to the 900,000 of your costs, right? So the key activities, partnership, and the resources, they all go back into that 900,000. So I really want to stress here, because I go back here. This is something that if you have a business model and you want to change something to it, that this helps filling this in to don't forget certain parts of your business model that you also need to change. So from my side, this is about the theory behind the business models. And again, I will stop sharing my screen. That's the theory. And that's really interesting because, right, we know this, we did research on this, and we can make nice models out of it, and maybe you can use it. But I also want to take the next couple of minutes to talk a little bit more about my experience, the experience that we see working with several companies in terms of what you need for your business model. And those three, we have three things, and maybe they are simple, but a lot of times you forget that you need to focus on those three things, also not in a specific order, but all at the same time. And those three are: one, you need to have customers, right? You need to have access to your customers, access to market. Because if you have, as a company, right, you can sell to your customers, you don't need an investment, for example, and you don't need to have additional people to the team, right? So you know that the thing that you are offering, you are able to sell it. So if you're setting up a business, make sure that from day one, you are talking to customers, that you are selling it to customers. Because on the one hand, you will understand that your customers are wanting to buy this product, right? So again, the desirability, what I mentioned before. But also, it's bringing in the cash that you're able to grow your company. So the one hand is access to market. Make sure that you have access to market. A lot of companies, for example, do that by going to an incubator, going to an accelerator, different things, because those people offer a platform where you are able to get that access to market. So that's the first one. The second one is that you need to have access to capital. And now a lot of times people tell me, yeah, I'm going to start a business, but I really need money to start a business. And I'm saying, okay, so why do you need money? Because, right, if you fill in that business model, what I just explained, the money comes because you sell to customers, right? Maybe you need money to grow your company. Maybe you need money to maybe bridge a certain gap in your in your cash flow. These are all different types of cash that you would need. And you also have different support in that. So if you say, okay, I need cash for example, to grow, or then if you go to a bank, maybe the bank is not the right place to go, because a bank will maybe only offer you maybe some cash flow financing. So you need to really understand at what certain time you need money for what. And the other question is, okay, but if you are working on this, and you want to, for example, raise money, and then you have an investor on board. Why do you want an investor? Maybe you don't want that in the beginning. Maybe you want that later, right? So these are all types of questions that a lot of times the assumption is from day one, I need to have, for example, an investment, or I first need to raise money to make my company successful. Why not, again, use the business model, make it more effective, and make sure that at a certain time, you know when you need the money. Right, so the business model delta, what I explained, shows also like, okay, at this moment, I'm looking for that money to further grow my company. Make it really concrete, because that also helps going to an investor and asking him or her to get money at a certain time. And the third one is really important for the success of a company, is access to talent. And talent is in a broad way, and that can be a good co-founder for your company, but can also be good team members. Because really, in the beginning of your company, but also if you're growing it, you need specific talent. You need to be aware of what that talent, what that is. And most of the times, we see companies, for example, if they're started from a more technical university, great tech guys, but have no clue of business. They don't use the business model canvas. They don't look at what the customer wants. They only look at the site from where they are developing their product. So I think that on that side, it's interesting to again be aware of that. A team is really, 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 really important. And I think that may be the most important if you are starting up a business. You need to be aware of that. For different types of companies, you need different types of teams. And I think that a team, having a team, is part of your business model. Because I see this question, it's a resource. So it's part of the resource. So if you look at it from that side, again, if we would set up a similar type of proposition to a customer, and I have a different team than, for example, you have, well, then we will probably have a different business outcome, because again, it's all about your team. That's in the beginning, but after you that beginning part, you start to grow your company, right? And then you are wanting to attract talent because you want to support you in that growth. And then you need specific types of people because you're in a growth phase. That means that a lot of the work that needs to be done, people need to work twice as hard, but also twice as smart. So you need to get those people in that are able to work smart. So you need to be really aware of that because otherwise you will have a lot of people that don't are able to cope with the growth of your company. So I think that's a really interesting way. So we say access. Make sure you have good businesses have access to market, access to cash, and access to talent. Those are really three main ingredients that you have to, I would say, not have in order, but be aware of that is needed. And again, cash is not that you need the cash, but you need to make sure that your finances are ready, that you know, for example, that you can use a subsidy somewhere, that you know at what time you can go to a bank or that you should go to an informal investor. So it's really about the knowledge, understanding of that those three things are really important for your business model. Okay, so I'll do a quick recap because it's difficult also for me, because I want to have some interaction also with you guys based on also the questions. Is that I talked about the business model, and again, the business model canvas. Number one, it is a tool. It helps you to structure your thoughts about how your business is structured. I said, right, it's a way how you are able to map how does a customer wants your proposition, right? So the desirability. On the one hand, are you able to deliver that value, the feasibility, right? And the third one is, are you able to do this on a repetitive scale and grow it? And that means that you have a financial model, which is the viability. What I expect. So again, look with those glasses again to the business model canvas. Look it up. There are a lot of PowerPoints on that. Also how that works. So that's one thing. I talked about the business model delta. Because the delta part is interesting because it shows that you need to actually use the business model canvas all the time, right? So you fill it in, it's your current model, but maybe something changes. Maybe a different customer comes in. That means that your business model, your entire business model should be changing. Be aware of that and fill it in. Make sure that you know what the consequences are. So, for example, if you first produce whatever your product yourself, but then you will, for example, let it produce at a different location. That means a sort of cost savings, but it will also mean, for example, that certain channels are going to be changing. Be aware of that and put it there in the in your business model. So that was the business model delta, right? Again, it's a tool. It helps you to do it. And the third thing that I discussed was more on the practical side is that, okay, if you start a business and the business model is part of that, there are three main important things. That's access to talent, access to market, and access to finance. Again, be aware of that. Understand at what certain moment you need a certain amount of that. And yeah, surround yourself with the people that are able to provide that access. And I think that the order of those three are that first, and that's what said. Yes, you need first a good team, right? A good team helps you to be able to deliver something to a customer. And the last one is the cash. All right. So that's basically from my side the theory part. Again, it's a half an hour. It's short, but I really want to now dive into you with some of the questions. Can be practical, can also be on a different related, because for me that's also something that I would like to do. All right. So Jerke, I think back to you.
Bring your message, but I think it went very well, and we have a lot of questions.
Let's wait for it.
Before we go to the questions, I would like first to introduce Yefim Kalotkin, who, from a practical point of view, can also comment on what you have just told us. You see here his profile. I hope Yefim, please put on your mic and your camera. you're welcome to join us and give us your comments about your startup also. And then I will turn off my video and sound again. And Martin, maybe you do the same, and we leave it to 15 minutes to Yefim, and then we come back and answer questions of the attendees.
Hi, Jerke, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me. How do you hear me?
Good.
Perfectly. Good. Martin, thank you for your presentation. I would begin saying sorry, I'm still moving in the road because we have some quarantine things to do. And my wife is still driving, but we almost arrived. I would like to comment, first of all, on your presentation and in connection, of course, to my business experience. First of all, of course, the business lean model, the business lean canvas is now, I think, the most known kind of the approach to business modeling, actually, to prepare the business model, because even, I think, 7-8 years ago, when I was studying, the development of the business model, it was about making a 30-40 pages document about how you start to develop your business, what will be the financial part, what will be the team, what will be the technologies, what will be the competitive advantages, etc. But then when you are starting actually to make business, it's most the most part of times not connected in reality with the papers you have prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So the development of the business lean model, which represents all your idea and all your all the parts of the business environment, as an internal, as an external, is really a good approach, and I think that's why it became so popular, because it represents everything in one page. And then when you make it and when you finish it, when you develop it, and when you examine the business lean model of your idea of your business, you can then decide, is it viable to realize this idea, or you should stop in the beginning. When actually, should I say here about the experience of my startup?
Yeah, why not?
So we have I have graduated from Moscow State University of International Affairs in 2012, and then I studied in Erasmus University at the IHS Institute. It was not about business; it was about it's the Institute for Housing and Social Studies. It's about urban planning. But then developing my thesis about the former industrial areas and the redevelopment of these industrial areas in Moscow, like Artplay, Vinzavod, Kristall, into creative clusters, I've actually came to the point that there were so many former industrial areas with new types of businesses, like lofts and photo studios, or different kinds of event spaces, that actually I had the idea of making a business with these former industrial areas. And we have me and my partners. At the time, I already had my colleagues, my soulmates, with whom we decided to make this business. We came with the idea of gathering all these venues in one place and on a marketplace, and allowing people to search for a venue in which they would be happy to make an event. And we came with the idea. Then we started to develop the business model. We made it with the business lean canvas already in 2015. And of course, some of the parts of the business lean canvas probably were not made perfectly in the beginning, but still we made it to understand was it viable to make this business real, who were the competitors, what would be our monetization model, who would be in our team, and who we need to actually to search to make this business. So we started with the business lean model, and we started to test our first hypothesis. In terms of financing, you told about the attracting investor in the beginning. We did not attract investments. It's really how the way that you said, I need money to start my business. Yes, we needed money, but we were the team, we were the people, the founders who worked on this idea without putting any money, first of all, but we put all our efforts, all our time to develop it. And then when we tested different several hypotheses, and we got one that worked with this marketplace, and people started to book actually and to pay for booking a venue, then we proved this hypothesis, and we went on preparing a presentation for a future investor, because we needed money at the time, and we understood that we needed money for different kinds, different things, development of professional website, etc., etc. But for the testing, we didn't need actually any money. Yeah.
And did you also use other means of financing in the beginning? So that means maybe some subsidy, or maybe some whatever specific loan, startup loan, or.
I would say there are different ways of getting finance to a business, to a startup. Everyone knows about business angels and about venture funds, but this and venture capitals, but these are only one of the several possibilities. In different countries, there are different possibilities. I believe that in Netherlands and the EU, there are more grants possibilities with the EU programs. I think EU Horizon 2020, etc. First of all, the grants, then it's credits from the loans from the banks and loans from people. But for the startup, initially it will be, I think, the 3F, a famous model: friends, family, and fools. The fools who will believe in your business model, and in our case, it was family who invested, who were the first investors. And then after we raised this round, we went for a venture round, because taking loans in Russia, it would not be the best possibility, but it depends on the era. It depends on the area in which you make a business.
Exactly.
For example, now Moscow invests, and many Russian cities, they invest in technologies in medicine, connected with healthcare, connected with the space technologies, connected with the hardware. But our area of business was about marketplace, and here there are not many possibilities, because it's a startup, but it's more about traditional business. It's more about IT. And here we had less possibilities with taking loans, and that's why we went for business angels model, and started to search for business angels. That's how it went.
Cool.
I see questions here.
Yeah, that's maybe from Ruben. It's a good question, right? It's about taking risk, and if you're able to take that risk away from having a really good business plan, and what's the balance between that? How do you see that, Efim?
I will just read it carefully. What is the right balance of working on your business model on the one hand, and actually starting on the other hand? Well, I think that many people are afraid of starting to test a business model.
Yeah.
But actually, you shouldn't be afraid. And you shouldn't be, most people are afraid of making mistakes. You shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes, because without mistakes you won't reach the right way to do the business. And when you develop a business model, I think you should step by step start to somehow to test your business model, start to sell it to your friends, to your to the people that you know, start to pitch. Every time you develop something new, start to pitch to them, and you start to get the first clients amongst the people you know. It goes in the same way with developing business model. You don't lose anything by testing it.
No.
So I think the right way of implementing a right business model would be testing and implementing, testing and making corrections.
Yeah, and I think, and that's also what I said in the presentation a couple of times, right? Guys, the business model canvas is a tool. It's something that helps you structure your thoughts, structures also the customer feedback that you will get, put it back there. What does that mean for your business? So I think that you are never able to have a precise business plan, because a business plan, you only look at what happened in the past, right? But you want to look. So you base your future plans on things that happened in the past, and what you want your future plans to base on what is happening right now, right? You want to know what is what are customers wanting right now? How are you delivering that value? Exactly. And the only thing that we are saying again is that you also should not only do some testing, like, oh, I ask here and I ask there, and then I will see what happens. That is also not good, because that is how we always look at the risk part, because then it's not what we always say, it's calculated, right? So an entrepreneur takes a calculated risk. So what Ruben is saying, it's not true. That you need to take risk. No, you take calculated risk, and calculated risks are based on, okay, what am I able to, what will happen if it doesn't work out? How much loss will I make? Is that a problem or not? Can I do this? Is this the relationship? So you want to be at that, right? It's a thin line, but you want to be there as much as possible to see how far you can go and stretch it. So again, calculated risk.
Of course, you need to calculate, but before the calculation, you need to make some customer development. You need to know your market better. In order to do that, you need to prepare some interviews and talk to people actually in the area of the business you want to begin. Talk to customers, talk to the companies that offer actually already that kind of or similar kind of business. So you can talking to them, you can you learn the details that will help to calculate
exactly
all the risk. But also in the very beginning, you don't carry much risks. When you have no business yet, there is no risk to test. So small test. I think it's important to take the decision that I'm starting to make something. I stop to think about making business, but I start actually to make business.
Exactly.
And when you change that in mind, you open your eyes to the possibilities that your idea offers, and the possibilities that your idea can bring.
Exactly, and I think that's exactly what you're saying. That is focused on the customer, and I think it's also what one of the questions is that, okay, how to make right my customers buy my business. Again, you just ask those customers, right? You just ask them, and you don't need to build an entire product, right? So you can, we call that prototyping. This is not a theory, but so I'll give one small example. What happens is we had two teams in our incubator program. One is from the Technical University in Delft, and one was from the business student. And at a certain moment, these guys because there were guys from the Technical University, they had an electric motorbike. But what they did, they make a scale of, I think it's on a 10, that it was a working prototype of an electric motorbike, which maybe I think it cost because they used the resource of the university. But I think in general it cost around 50,000 euros to build that. And then I said, look, well, we have this great electric motorbike and the technique is working, etc. And then we said, okay, but now you need to. Do you know that a customer wants this? Oh no. we don't know that. But if we want to ask a customer, probably they want to see a working prototype, right, of this motorcycle. The guys from Erasmus University, doesn't matter if it's our university, it can be different people, of course, they just made it out of paper. And then they just did the same thing. They went to customers. They just showed that, this is sort of what it does. It will help you to do this, this, and this, etc. And in the end, they got the same results back talking to their customers, potential customers. But they only used paper to build that prototype. So we always say that first you can start by writing the sentence down of what your business is doing, and then step by step you're building that prototype. And maybe at some point, of course, you need to have a technical prototype, because you need to make also sure, again, if you look back at my model, so you know the desirability is there, right? You know that the customer wants it, and then you want to see if it's feasible. Are you able to deliver that technical product? And then you will go into that part. But at the beginning, first you need to know if a customer wants it. So before making a product, you want to ask the customer, and that's, I think, really a really important lesson.
And Martin, what do you think about crowd investing? Sometimes when people develop the hardware business, when they have the idea of constructing something that is even making a prototype is expensive, you go to some kind of platform and you propose to invest in that model. And you in that way you can look, is there any kind of demand for your idea or not?
Exactly.
What do you think about that?
I think that's, well, to give the answer, it's that a crowdfunding platform only works for specific types of products or companies. So if you have a product that is sort of that people can form a relationship with, they like it, it's cool, it's high tech, or right, then it's working. But for other types of businesses, crowdfunding is not the right platform to do. So you really have to, again, that's also what I said, if you want to use crowdfunding as a way to raise money, it's totally fine, but think about what your business is doing. So maybe you're in a business where business angels are the better option for financing. And maybe another business angels you shouldn't have, you should go to a bank, because banks understand, right, whatever certain business is better than others. If you have some high-tech company which is really complex and it's a new model, and you go to a bank, they say, it doesn't, in our system, it doesn't show that we are able to give you money. But you need to, so it doesn't mean that your company is not investable. It means that your bank is not the right finance option. It's the same for crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a great way, again, also to test, right, if customers want to buy it. I also sometimes buy on those platforms some things, because I also really like that. But you have to use it in the right way.
Yefim, Martin, may I ask you both a question? It came up also in the earlier session with Aart, and I saw it here today. And of course, we're all in the midst of a corona crisis. I know, Martin, you as a director of the Erasmus Center of Entrepreneurship, you have a lot of startups probably affected also by the crisis. Yefim, I know your startup quite well. We used it also. I like it a lot. And it's definitely also affected by the crisis. Could you both maybe comment a bit on how you, Yefim, as a startup, how you, Martin, with your Center of Entrepreneurship, how are startups coping with this?
I think that what we see, because we also actually do some research on this. So how do companies cope with the crisis? But also what you should, and that's maybe more interesting, is that what should you do as a company in a crisis? And what is the effect of that in a later stage? And we looked, for example, at the crisis at 2001 and 2008. What those companies and did at that time, and you see that the companies that were able to adapt, change their business model, not only for the crisis, but also for after that, they were the ones who had also maybe a hard time, but they came back out of the crisis in a better way. So, for example, they grow, but also they were able to outcompete in the market, because they used this time to really change their model, again, not only for now but also for later. So one example is, for example, that companies, they say, okay, so I'm now gonna sell mouthpieces, right? So first I did whatever. I was a fishery. That's one story I heard. I was a fishery company, and then because we have some relationship with China, we started importing mouthpieces. But after the crisis is over, they will probably stop with the mouthpieces because that's not our business, and they go back to the fishery. That is not something that works. It's nice for the short run, but it's not for the long run. What we do say is that it's also a time to change your current business model. So, for example, maybe a lot of restaurants right now are testing with the delivery. I think this is an opportunity for them also to really incorporate in their business model that they do delivery in a structured way. But that means that you change your entire business model. And again, then you go to the business model delta model, which I explained, to calculate that back. What does that mean for you, for your company, for your resources, et cetera, et cetera. So these are, let's say, from the research side, my experience with startups. That we ask them, change your business model now because this is the time to do it.
Yes, in our case, I think it's not about changing the business model because all our business is connected with the offline events. Of course, it's connected with the venues that provide this kind of events. We started to brainstorm on which way we can turn, but actually the event industry suffered as much as the I think traveling industry. So here it's not about changing this model. In our case, the way you should manage and cope with this crisis was cutting all the maximality of your expenses and to freeze your business until the market will be starting to take its position back. So now we see that a little bit step by step the market starts to feel alive. And we are receiving some booking requests for August, but I've managed to the most important case and the most important thing that I should have as CEO of the business make is to somehow save our team and to be able to take the team back when the business is back. So I helped to a part of the team to find a temporary job or to take temporary projects. I also brought some temporary projects. These are projects for developing websites, designing websites, SEO, engine optimization of websites. So I brought some projects and I gave them to my team. Some people of my team who are more experienced and more professional, they found temporary projects themselves. There is only, I think, 2 persons that quit our company forever with a new job, and all other people will. I hope they will come back, and I hope they will return. Of course, this depends on the team. Does the team love to work with the product, or they work only for the money they receive? In our case, we have a team which is built not only on money but also on the believe, also on the strong power and strong belief in our business idea and on some kind of friendship. And that's why we managed until this day, and I hope it will last. We managed to keep our team, and we also continue to maintain all the needed processes that even in the corona crisis are important, like sending papers, accepting calls, answering emails, maintaining SMM, etc. So I think for the businesses that suffer the most, this is most important to, first of all, to check your financial model, to cut all your expenses that are not extremely important to maintain the business alive, to talk to people, to be very clear with the situation with your business and with the future, and what are you doing in order to cope with the situation, and what are your plans to be very clear with your team, with your partners. It's the most important thing, because when you have trust among the people, among the company, among the investors, this trust will help the business to survive.
And I think as an addition to that, and also as an answer to one of the questions, is that if we look at it at the Center for Entrepreneurship on itself and our business model, is that so we are offering executive education in the field of innovation and entrepreneurship, so to people working in corporates and governments and also scale-up companies nowadays. And so we needed to switch at some point to online, right? Also what we're actually doing right now. And actually, my point is, yes, of course, I made sure that we cost cutting right on all the things and all the lecture rooms that we hired, etc. But I am now looking at when the Corona crisis is over, we are now also making a business model about that. For example, we offer 3-day programs, which are all in-house, but maybe we do 2 days in-house, 1 day online with this. So we change what we are doing, but we also change the product that we're selling, right? Because I know that if you are not in a class in a day, you have a different learning experience. So that means that I have to have different resources, right? If you look at the business model, to change that I offer a different type of product, a different proposition to my customer. And that's what I'm saying is that sometimes you use the crisis also to adapt your business model to the future, because now it's a great time to test it.
I will add that we actually, of course, we developed other ideas. We made a development studio for developing projects and to promote them. And also we made a studio for online broadcasts in Moscow.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
But it took 2 months to build it, to create a new team. And we only now, last week we started to receive requests, and we made our first events there. So it also takes time.
Takes time, yes.
And also it takes investments, not only financial investments of time, investments of the new people that should invest their knowledge, their connections, their time in this business model. It also takes time. So of course, I believe that after the crisis, after the market starts to grow, this time it will be the most important time in the history of our company, because if we survive this, we have the possibility to open new branch, like for example for development of new products, side projects, and with this online studio and some other things that we also developed, like mini startups. Maybe we will also take them and bring them on the new level. And the crisis is a changing thing, and it's a turning thing in the business. If you survive, you go out from the crisis, you graduate from it stronger and even more capable of doing new things.
Yeah, cool. I have another question. It's different, but I found it interesting. Someone asked how to deal with distrust of women in business at the initial stage. I wonder if you can comment on that. And maybe Yefim, I know you're a male, but you're also very young when you started. So has it also an influence on startups being made often by young people? How do people look at that? Is it more difficult to get trust from investors? And Martin, what is also your experience in this?
I would say this is a difficult topic everywhere in the world. But yes, let's say yes, we see it. And yes, it's something that is it's out there. And my personal opinion is that the more we emphasize it, the more it becomes something. But I don't want to discard it. Let's put it that way. So I think that we need to be really aware of that. That the fact that, for example, female funds are starting, etc., that makes the gap even bigger. Because then at the end, it will be only like, okay, but if you're female, then you go to a female fund, right? That's logical. So in the end, you don't want that. And yes, we also did research on what is the difference from an entrepreneurial perspective from a person, from how do women and men look at business, how do they take risk, etc., etc. Yes, there is a difference, but I think that you need to just be clear on that, and that there is a difference, which is totally fine. But also that there are great examples of when that started businesses, and you just need to have those examples out there, maybe a little bit more than others, and then in the end, I think it will help to close that gap. But you are it is a point. Yeah, it's true.
In my experience, I think, of course, it's more.
Sure.
Yeah, it's. Do you hear me? In my experience, women doing business is more difficult, of course, to them to gain this trust. But when I personally see women that are CEO startups or founders, I think that. They came through such difficulties that now they're even more capable of creating and leading this business. Because when I see on a scene a woman representing a startup, I have a great, I would say, not trust, but I enjoy. I love when I see that women came through all these difficulties, and they actually believed in themselves, because it's about the belief, and it's about the thing that you know that you can do business. Because I don't think that in reality investors or partners will say, I won't do business with you because you're a woman. No, it's not true. Everyone wants to. For me, there is no difference. There is no difference between a woman or man doing business, or would be a woman head of the company with whom I work. Even once I've invested in a small startup with a woman head of the startup, and I think in Russia, when a woman makes a business, it's a better business than a male business, because I have more trust, even more trust in such companies. I think in Europe it's more different, and there are, of course, more women doing business than in Russia, because there are many stereotypes still. But I think it's changing. In Moscow, definitely is changing. In big cities, so I believe so too. And talking about Europe, there are conferences, there are funds investing in women, but it's like if I go to a fund investing in Jew business. I'm Jewish, and for me, maybe taking money from a Jewish fund, it would be easier, but I never tried, because the most important thing in building trust is to find something in common with the people that you want to make the partnership. And for example, if the founder is a woman and you're a woman, you can trust. If it's a question of nationality, maybe trust, or you graded from the same university, it's more trust. So it's about finding something in common to build the trust. Maybe this is more easier.
Yeah, maybe a follow-up question that is actually interesting, because Martin, maybe you see it in the chat as the last question. You mentioned some research that your center also has done. Could you give some examples on the male-female difference towards making business?
Yeah. So one is that again, what I said about taking it's not per se taking risk, but it's perceiving risk. So women are a little bit they perceive more risks, and that is just something that it's more it's a natural thing that you do. So that's one thing. So that means that you are maybe you're a little bit more hesitant to take a step because you see the risk, and a man doesn't see a risk, or maybe if it becomes at a higher risk. That's one. The second is, and that is a really interesting one, it's a little bit more practical, is that you see that if you, for example, go to a customer, if a man does that, they try to sometimes oversell it. right? So they present it actually that it's better than they are maybe able to offer. That's also something, what you do. That is something that what you see that women do less. They're more honest about, okay, this is what I can offer, etc. And again, this is not a good or a bad thing. No, it's something that you need to be aware of, that if you need to be aware that if you go to a certain customer and a customer knows that you're overselling, because that's what always happening, and you don't do that, then you are less. And this is, I will give a small example of the US here, is that if you talk business into the US and you talk about your success, and you say, for example, I have 100 million or whatever, 100 million revenue, in the US, people always do 30% on top of what it is. It's the same with giving tips, right? You know, it's like 10, 20%. It's already so far that everybody in their, how they interact with each other, they use that. So if someone is saying to an investor 100 million revenue, they know, let's say, 70 million. Let's say the numbers are not totally correct, but you know what I mean? Like, so you need to understand, if I pitch to an American and my revenue is 50K, I need to say to them, right, it's 65, because I need to make it 30% higher, because in his head or her head, they think, oh yeah, so it's 50. So, and this is the same as for here, right? So these are at least two things which are there. And then the other part is that you see that there is a little bit more focus on the beginning on the team and team coherency. That it's important that the relationships between the people are okay. In the beginning of your company, that can sometimes be difficult, because then everybody needs to just go, and it's okay to have a struggle between people, or people are maybe not happy, etc. Later on, if you want to grow your business, then it's a really important factor. And again, it's the same. You need to be aware of that. So take another co-founder that is more like that. But on the other hand, if there is that co-founder that is maybe a little bit more rigid or whatever, they need to understand that they need someone else next to it to make sure that the business. So this also goes both ways. So these are 3 points from the research that we saw.
One more question I see pop up: the startups in the non-profit sector. I mean, is the Canvas tool where a lot of questions are obviously talking about applicable there?
Easy answer, because again, if it's profit, non-profit, social, doesn't matter. It's about you deliver value. And you deliver value and you capture it. And the capturing of the value can be in monetizing things, but can also be in how you measure impact and stuff like that. One of the slides I shared, again, it will also be what I will be sending you. It also shows that you have impact in different ways. So you need to understand, again, it is about creating value. And we also say to people who are in a sustainable business, say, yeah, but I don't want to make profit. I'm like, saying, yeah, you don't need to make profit, but you need to have a business model which is viable, what I said before, because you need to want to keep it going, right? And if you can only do it once, then you're also not making impact. So you need to have a business model which is really, really viable, that it sticks together. And again, then you don't steer on profit, you steer maybe on a specific type of impact. So yes, it's totally usable for these types of business.
Yeah. And the last one, I think, for today, to Martin, but then also to Yefim. One is came in early. Where is the difference, or where lies the difference between viability and desirability? And how do you build desirability? Or do you need to be lucky? And of course, well, first to Martin, and maybe Yefim can answer how he made his company desirable.
Yeah. No, so I think, again, the desirability relates to that you are offering something, you want to offer something that has value for a customer, right? Because that's why you do it for. The whole business model is about delivering that value. So you need to figure out what a customer wants and needs. You need to start with that always. That's the basic answer. So that means that from the beginning, you need to only talk to customers, ask what they want, offer them something, see how they react, etc., etc. And then in the end, you know that customers want it. And then you will look at if your company is able to deliver that, and then if you are also make it viable. So that means that can you do it in a repetitive way? But the desirability, and I think that Efim will also talk about this from his company. He said, okay, go to customers, see what they want, right? Change my business model again because they maybe want something different. It's all about the customers. And again, that's why I said you don't need cash, you don't need other things. Get the market, get the access to the market.
I think there are 3 important things in order to make your company desirable and your product. First of all, and it's the most important, that you actually you tackle the problem that exists and you help to solve it, because all the businesses are about solving a problem. In our case, it was solving the problem to find and filter and choose the perfect location for your event. Secondly, when you know that you are solving the problem and you know that people use your product to solve the problem, you should market it. And the more you market, the more it becomes desirable. And the third thing, it's about PR. It's about designing the product. It's about making it looking beautiful. It's about creating a storytelling, and it's about articles. It's about making using your product not as a product, but making people a part of something bigger. For example, when people make example of such belonging is a company Apple. When you buy a phone, you want a MacBook, you want AirPods, you want everything, and because it's about the big idea. So you should become this. You should create this big idea of your company. These are the three things that are most important to make your company desirable. As for the clients, as for the partners, as for the investors.
Okay, thank you very much, Yefim. Thank you very much, Martin. We had a lot of questions about finance today also that have not been answered. Next week, on Tuesday, 4 o'clock Moscow time, we have the third session, which is on entrepreneurial finance. It will be delivered by Professor Dr. Hein Roltsema, leading researcher at the High School of Economics in Moscow and also associate professor at Utrecht University. And the Russian expert will be Alexei Nyen, who is a managing partner at Begin Capital with a 30 million venture capital fund and investor for 22 global startups in Russia. So we can continue the talk there and then. As I mentioned in the beginning, this lecture was recorded. You will receive the link. As I mentioned last time, we are thinking of building a community. So we'll let you know about that and how you can join that, and then we can discuss all these matters even further. I really enjoyed today, so thank you very much, Martin Luxemburg. Thank you very much, Yefim Kalotkin, for your input, for your time. I wish you a nice day. To all the attendees, thank you very much. Note that you're not alone. We're actually 300 plus people that are listening into this, so that's really great. We hope to see you all next week, Tuesday, the third session. Thank you all. See you on Tuesday. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Yefim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerke. Thank you guys for listening and the questions. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.